Dear Louis, I have been reading about biohacking, where the focus is on staying young and healthy and keeping one's youth for as long as possible. A lot has been described about the ideal diet, low stress, and exercise to keep one young. For me, letting go of deep-seated emotional blocks has kept me healthy as I age. Is there an ideal way to live one's life, to age gracefully and to stay healthy? Yes, there is an ideal way. I mean, there are many roads that lead to the top of the mountain, so to speak. But as I was speaking earlier, I don't want to repeat everything I said in that earlier question about physical exercise, but that is a part of it. Excuse me. So let me just touch on a few points. That one that I just talked about, just to briefly recap, a certain amount of healthy exercise to keep all your organs and organ systems and aspects of your physical body and health is very good. Most experts agree. About 30 minutes of exercise each day with elevated heart rate is a good barometer. Some people do more, a lot more, some do a little less, but that's an average, tailoring needing to be tailored to each individual, as well as which exercises you most like and are best suited to your body type and the level of your health. So in terms of ideal diet, low stress, to reduce stress and eliminate stress, there are a couple of keys I can give you. Number one, daily meditation. You know, a soldier doesn't put on his armor when he comes home from battle. You put it on before you go into battle. So, morning meditation, the first thing when you wake up, and ideally the earlier the better, before meditations are easiest and best before the collective critical mass where you live has awakened. It's just much easier to pass through the veil and to connect to the divine before all the chatter and the maya and the delusion and the madness wakes up and everyone starts, their list of to-dos and all their thoughts and mental maya and contortions. So if you can get your meditation in before humanity wakes up in the, early wee hours between 5 and 7, that would be ideal. If not, just as early as you can. But key is before you start your day is the best time to do it. Now, if you absolutely can't, and again, can't means for most people, I choose again not to, as I can't. It's an acronym. But let's just say hypothetically there are some real conditions whereby it's just physically not possible because of the conditions in your life. Then do it when you can. But ideally at the start of your day. So you get grounded, you get sourced, you get fed by the divine to go through your day and serve and do what you have to do. And another thing, there's a great tool that I teach that I was also taught in my training. During that meditation, I used to be, I should say, and still am to some degree, one of those people who has all these the to-do lists that are a mile long. The only difference is they don't run me anymore like they did in my early days. I still have page after page of lists of all the things I want to do, need to do, have to do, been assigned to do by my boss. But through meditation and through spiritual training and practice and disciplines, eventually the tail no longer wags the dog. Doesn't mean the lists disappear, because of a lot of things I need to do in my life and in my job and in my family and household and ministry and the nonprofit and all that, and for all the people I tend to. But the tail no longer wags the dog. And the tool that I was taught in my studies is that when you're in meditation, you can hold that list in your mind if you want. At some point, bring it in, not all the way through your meditation, but when you come to that, moving God's will into action, just be in the listening in your meditation of a prioritizing of what needs to happen on that given day. And it will not always, and rarely will it ever coincide with what you think the list of priorities are, because people, again, get stuck in their head and the decisions they make are not sourced from their heart or from listening to the Creator, to the divine, or to their guru, or to their spirit guides. and masters, it's all egoically driven, either by fear or by selfishness or by sense gratification or by unworthiness or seeking approval. All these twisted, impure motives for prioritizing our life. But when you just simply ask, "How may I serve you, Lord? What is the most important?" you will find a very strange mix. Now, you'll see a few important business things in there. You might see something to do out in the garden. You might see taking a walk on the beach. You might see calling that old friend you haven't seen or thought about, or go spending time, with animals or small children. There'll be a whole potpourri of things, because that's what keeps you well-rounded and healthy. But most people's list is these things I got to get done. And then the more selfish people are, it's all their gratifying things that are at the top of the list. So, but the divine has a very different list. And when you start to defer to that, first listen for that list and attune to it, and then defer to it and obey it and serve it, your life turns around like you can't imagine. So, and the other aspect of that, divining the list in meditation, is to limit it to no more than 6 items. Because oftentimes people will make their to-do list for a day 25 items, and no matter how much they get done, they feel like they failed, and then they condemn themselves in the evening. I had a horrible day, got nothing done, I failed miserably, just like my dad said, just like my mom, just like my school teacher, blah, blah, blah. You're just playing right into the pattern again. Because you're serving your wounds and your wounded inner child and not the divine. So you limit that list. And if they all get done, those 6 items get done, and they might not necessarily, but you're prioritizing them. But there's nothing more to be on that list than 6. And that's what, putting those 2 aspects together, asking in meditation and asking my gurus and guides to show me of all the things what's on my list, and prioritize the top 6 in order of priority. And then having nothing but those visible. I don't even want to know the rest of the list exists. Just put it away somewhere. And that cracked it for me in a few months. Changed a habit that I had for over 20 years. It was amazing. 100% successful. So that's stress relieving. Also, making a commitment to healing your mental and emotional bodies and issues and wounds, critically important for overall health, keeping one young and healthy. A lot of people think that does not need to be addressed, but it really, really does. Some people think if they just read scripture all day long or listen to devotional music all day long, those are beautiful tools and practices, and I highly recommend both of them. However, you have to open the dungeon doors and clean house. Otherwise, those patterns just run you. So that's critical as well. And nutrition, it's very, very important. Keeping it simple, there are many, many diets because we all have different body types. So I don't want to get into which foods, which proteins, meat or no meat, vegan or vegetarian or carnivore and all that. I could do hours on that. But I want to share with you one particular thing, and I do with individuals. We help tailor it for each person. I do want to share one particular thing, a model that I developed, 25 years ago. And I call it the Trinity of Food and for optimal health. And how it works is this, and this is independent of whether you're carnivore, vegetarian, vegan, raw. Our body is made up, and it works in all those categories too. Our planet is made up of 75% water. Our body is made up of 75% water. Ergo, to be in optimal health, your diet should be 75% water-based foods, which is fruits and vegetables. It doesn't mean 50-50, but of water-based foods. And that maintains optimal hydration, optimal nutrient reception, optimal everything. It puts you in harmony with the planet because we live, as human beings, we live in symbiosis with the planet. We actually don't inhabit the planet. We're part of it. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. We inhale oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide. The plant kingdom inhales carbon dioxide, exhales oxygen. We are part of the kingdom. We're not sharing it. We're actually part of it. We need that. That's half of our breathing mechanism. We're half of theirs. And the same thing with hydration. We live on a water planet. We need water foods to sustain our hydration. And what happens is that creates homeostasis, and that creates that perfect trinity of balance with the planet that we are actually built as a part of it. So, and that, as I show you this, what I've labeled, the term I came up with, the trinity of food, is that harmony can apply to whichever category of diet you happen to be in. It still works. It can work in raw, vegan, vegetarian, and carnivore, or any combination thereof. And you'll find how your body will just be amazed. So, and now again, there are some cultures and parts of the world where over the course of time in history, they have evolved and practiced traditions that are not that. It doesn't mean they have to change or they're right or wrong. I mean, I led safaris in Africa a couple of times, and the Masai Mara live on meat, blood, and milk. So they live in a desert, and they have very little vegetables because they have very little water, and it's the most scarce and priceless commodity. So they've developed a lifestyle that accommodates where they live. So I'm not saying we have to go plant farms of vegetables and force feed them vegetables, but I'm talking about overall, for optimal healthy living, practicing the trinity of food will change your life. Okay, so there's a nice discourse on maintaining optimal health and staying fit and young through the combination of the different things, I think I covered 4 categories here of reducing stress, spirituality, meditation, exercise, diet, all that. So thank you. Great question. And probably the most concise discourse I've given on that, and the most comprehensive as well.